Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. Thanks for being here. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. We are going to go ahead and get started here in just a moment. Everyone should be able to see my screen with the slides, as well as hear me. If you cannot, for some reason, just put something in the chat. We appreciate your time today, and we are going to be recording our session. So please know that you will receive a copy of the recording, a link to it after our presentation today. So you can listen before you're going to bed at night to help you go to sleep. Just kidding. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get the recording started. So we will launch here in just a second. Let me get that going. Okay, awesome. All right, so we are recording today. Thank you all for being here for what is it's a rainy day here in Atlanta at least. And we greatly appreciate your time talking about overcoming the imposter syndrome. So this is a webinar through our partner, Georgia State, for alumni as well as friends of the university and others that are interested or wanted to attend today. And, this imposter syndrome thing it's a pretty big deal in the sense of we have seen a big uptick in the past year or so in our clients asking us for help with this, as evidenced by the number of people that registered for today. We had about 70 people. And when we were hosting this for another organization a few months ago, 300 people attended. So please know first, right out of the box, that you're not alone. This imposter syndrome thing can affect anybody, regardless of where you are in your career, how long you've been working, et cetera, et cetera. So just by way of quick introduction, I'm Hallie Crawford. I'm a certified career coach, speaker, and author. My company is based in Atlanta, Georgia. We're proud partners of Georgia State, awesome school here locally. And I have been coaching and training since 2002. So it's been a long time. There's a lot more gray hair going on underneath. I have an undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt University and a master's degree from the University of Illinois. And we love what we do. I tend to give a lot of advice on these webinars, which I hope is going to be helpful for you. We try to keep it as tangible, practical, and specific as possible. And please know that because we are going to give you a lot of thoughts here and tips and advice today, pick and choose what makes the most sense for you and your situation based on what's going on as it relates to imposter syndrome for yourself. And then remember, you can get or you will receive a copy of the recording, and you can always listen in later to capture and start on some of those other action steps that we'll talk about today too. So here's our agenda. We're going to talk first about imposter syndrome and how it's defined and why it's important to discuss this in the first place, because it has a big impact or can have a big impact on people and their professional and honestly their personal lives too. There's an internal impact and external, and we want you to get clear about both of those for yourself. We'll talk today, obviously, about tools to manage those. We will give you some action steps along the way, including at the end. And if you would like a copy of our slides, jot down our email address. It's admin@createyourcareerpath.com. We'd be happy to share those with you. We're going to be on for about a half an hour today. I'll be mindful of your time. And let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk first about imposter syndrome and at least how we define it with our clients, et cetera, to help them start working through this. It's a psychological phenomenon, which I know sounds really serious, but it's something that goes on kind of in our heads, whether it's lack of confidence or lack of internalizing or being unable to internalize your accomplishments. And this is what happens for people, is that some people with imposter syndrome feel like they can't internalize their accomplishments. They don't give themselves enough credit. In some cases, if you take a look at the middle of this slide, some people feel like they're frauds, which is really tough, and don't deserve the success that they have achieved. And some people with imposter syndrome will say or assume inside of their head that their success professionally has been a lucky break, or they've gotten a break, or a client or a boss really liked them, for example. So bottom line, it's that you're not taking ownership or able to take as much ownership as you could of your expertise, your skills, your strengths, or your accomplishments. Now, we'll talk about this a little bit more as we go. Remember that, or keep in mind for me, that imposter syndrome is not something that necessarily you're going to be experiencing all the time, every single second of the day, A, and B, you may not experience it throughout your career. I hope that's not the case. So it is something that can come and go. And please know, I guess I don't want anyone to feel like they're plagued with this and it's something that they're never going to get past or get over. You absolutely can, which is why we're here today. So if you look at these statistics, it kind of piggybacks on what I said a few moments ago. A lot of people feel this way. 2 out of 5 people consider themselves frauds, whether it's constantly or every once in a while. And 70% of people feel like imposters at one time or another. And I will raise my hand and say, this has happened to me before too. It comes and goes, but sometimes I do feel like that if we have a down cycle in our business, or if, we don't have, like, we haven't met our revenue goals exactly, or whatever it is. Sometimes that can happen for me as well. And I've been doing this for 25 years and I'm 51. So it's normal. One of the first things that we'd suggest that you start to think about, and go ahead and get out your pen and paper here and write this down, is it's good for you to understand for yourself how often you feel this way. Is it, 25% of the time, 50%, or 75%? So think about kind of a percentage, how often you feel this way now. And think about it in terms of your past too, because like I said earlier, this isn't always something that people have been living with. Sometimes it's a newer thing for them. And it's really good to start assessing the situation first, because that's how you can then decide what you need to do, when you need to do it, etc. So if we look at this next slide, this is part of the challenge for people. I think there's a lot of stuff that has exacerbated imposter syndrome, and why we're seeing this more often with people we work with. There's the working from home or hybrid model. Some people love it, some people struggle with it. Leaders who are having to lead teams virtually, sometimes that's harder for them. We have to learn new processes in our jobs constantly, just based on whatever's going on with our organization, et cetera. And then when you overlay that with new technology, AI, and the fantastic things there, but also the concerns people have about how is that going to impact my job, this imposter syndrome thing can bubble up. So if you look at the bottom right of this slide, the next thing we want you to think about and write down for yourselves is, when does this typically crop up for you, or pop up, I should say? Is it certain situations, or in certain situations, that you tend to feel this way more so than others? Is it when you're interacting with certain people within your organization, even in your personal life, or clients or customers? Is it when you're working on a certain type of project or something else related? The goal here is for you to try to identify the themes and when this pops up for you, because that's when you can start to say, oh, I need to prepare a little bit more for that. Or, oh, I'm a perfectionist with these types of projects in particular. So I need to make sure I set a timer for those or ask for help with those, get some accountability or whatever it is. So noticing those patterns can be a huge first step to overcoming this and dealing with it, because you can then know, okay, when do I need to really be on the lookout for it? And what are the areas that it's more stressful for me? A great quote from this was from Inc. magazine several years ago, and just a reminder that even very successful people, and sometimes this can actually help you with imposter syndrome, even really successful people can experience this. This was a guy who had started a large health food store out in California, and he even said in this article he was giving credit elsewhere. Yes, we have a great business, but did we just get lucky? And was it our employees? Now, what I'll tell you is that the goal here is not to not give credit to where credit is due with other people and with your team, but you can start to say things or tell yourself and say things out loud as well, which both are important, that, I give a lot of credit to my team. They were great at ABC. I was thrilled that I was able to leverage my strengths of XYZ and, provided this result as part of it too. You can give credit all over the place, including yourself. And that's what you need to think about. Now, what we find, and the reason why this is such a big deal, is normally when we start with our clients in coaching, we ask them what are their biggest obstacles to their success in their professional lives. And one would think that, oh, they might say it was a difficult boss or, something else external. And of course, sometimes people say that. But 9 times out of 10, when it comes down to it, our clients will tell us they are their biggest obstacle to their success. It's not something else external. And the good news there is you can control how you feel, what you do. So the next thing we want you to be considering and thinking about, so we talked first about how often this happens. We talked second about starting to identify those patterns and themes. And by the way, a cool exercise for this could be if you just get like a pad of paper or journal that you can write down over the next week how often you feel this way and what are the scenarios. You can get a sense of what's really going on, because sometimes we'll make assumptions about things, and having it written down objectively can help enormously. So let's talk next about the internal impact that this can have. It's about how you feel as a result of it and the negative self-talk that may be going on in your head, which we all have it. Okay. I do as well. This is normal, just part of being human. So we want you to think about, and just by the way, if you'd like to put your responses to our polls here in the chat, totally fine to do so. We usually focus on content in these because we've got that 30 minutes. So think about how it's impacting you internally now. So for example, and it could be one of these on the slide, it could be something different. Do you discount your success and you don't give yourself credit, especially out loud in meetings? You don't take ownership of things and take the credit for things when it's appropriate. Do you attribute your success to luck, or I've just gotten a break, or someone was really nice to me? Or do you sometimes actually feel like a fraud or a fake, and other people are going to find out that you actually don't really know what you're doing? I will tell you that the first job I got out of grad school, I totally felt way in over my head. I didn't feel like they knew, or I felt like they thought I could do things that I didn't feel like I actually could. And it worked out. I was successful enough in that role. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't the right career fit for me long term. So I moved on. But I suffered from this almost every single day for that 3 years that I was there. It was really difficult. And the things we're going to talk about today will help you with it. But identifying how you feel and even journaling a little bit about that negative inner voice in your head that we all have. What does it normally say to you? What are the common themes there? Can help you understand A, what's going on, and B, what issues you need to tackle. The external impact is listed on this next slide. So take a look here. It could be anything. We've heard a lot of different things here. It could be, I don't apply for a job that I'd like. I don't ask for a promotion. We had a client come to us once when she first started with us. She hadn't gotten or asked for a promotion in 10 years. That was the most extreme example I've ever heard, but she just didn't do it. Is it that you understate your skills and experience when someone gives you accomplishment or a compliment, sorry, when someone gives you a compliment on an accomplishment, you kind of push it aside and brush it off. And in some cases, people will tell us they won't take on a task, they won't speak at a conference, even though they've been asked to. Some cases, they'll tell us this perfectionism thing gets a hold of them and they'll over prepare for things. And the problem with this is that all of these result in higher stress. So write down what's the biggest negative external impact for you as well, because this can help you say, okay, these are the things I need to do differently. So for example, someone who's understating or not acknowledging their skills and experience, we might tell them, okay, in the next week, you need to speak up in 3 meetings and give yourself credit for a task, a project, or whatever kind of result. So those are some of the things, as well as what we're talking about today, that we provide to our clients. We do give a discount to GSU alumni, so please feel free to reach out to us if you're interested in learning about our services. If you need to go a little bit deeper with this or anything else related to your career goals, we always do a free call. This is the same email address as we gave you for the slides, so you can ask for both in there. Let's talk next about the tools to manage. Now, there's lots of different things that you can do here. And like I said at the beginning, please pick and choose what makes the most sense for you, what resonates the most for you, depending on your situation, depending on your personality type, etc. And remember, there are other ones in addition to what we're talking about today. You could Google some ideas, ask friends and family for support and help with this. But we'll take a look at this next slide and we'll give you some tools here to work on this as a starting point. So all of these tools, one of the main goals here with imposter syndrome is to help you improve your confidence, as well as become more of the observer of whatever is going on for you rather than the victim. So what I mean by that is if you can start to notice your negative thinking, you're going to start to take away its power right away just by doing that. If you start to pay attention to when these feelings begin to come up, you can proactively do something about it. So quick example on this slide here, we had a client, Beth. She was actually pretty senior at a Home Depot here in Atlanta in marketing at that organization. And she constantly said, I just have gotten a lucky break. I've had a really nice boss who promoted me, et cetera, et cetera. She was had a really difficult time just like owning her success, but she was actually very good at what she did. So we started to work with her on multiple of these items. So number one is we had her interview a few other people in her life, friends, family, male, female, work colleagues, non-work colleagues, et cetera. Kind of a mix of people can be helpful for you. But interviewing other people about what your strengths are, even if it's informally, can help not just improve your confidence, but validate what you're good at so that you can start articulating it better, more frequently. And in some cases, you might get a sense of, oh, I'm actually better at this than I thought I was. Because the trouble with what we do really well naturally, or the difficulty, it's kind of human nature that we have. When something comes naturally to us, we tend to discount it and say, well, everyone's good at that. It's not something unique to me. So interviewing other people, 3 or 4 people, can be really, really helpful. Ask them what they see are your top strengths, what they like adjectives come to mind when they think of you. Those are really good ones. A second thing that Beth did for a little while was she had an affirmation on her bathroom mirror that reminded her of I know what I'm doing. I have this many years of experience. I'm an expert in ABC. In some cases, your affirmation may include a testimonial that you've gotten from your boss or a client or something like that. Some people, when they start to feel that negative thinking or they need to get in a better mental space, they'll have a playlist for that, for imposter syndrome, that gets them kind of pumped up, push that negative thinking aside. If you look in the middle of this slide here next, sometimes we'll have clients write down all of their accomplishments, whether it's since childhood or not. Sometimes it's good to go that far back, but just having that larger list of, oh, these are the things I've accomplished. Like, I do know what I'm doing here, can be really helpful to boost your confidence. A second thing from the middle of the slide here is make a commitment to yourself to take small risks on a daily basis. Here's the deal. Confidence is a muscle. You need to work it out in order to keep it in good shape, just like you would at the gym, pumping iron or weight or whatever people say now. And doing something that pushes you out of your comfort zone, even if it's small, like I'm going to speak up in meetings, or I'm going to send an email to someone that normally I would feel uncomfortable doing so, and be a little bit more, let's say, direct about my communication with them. Trying something new, taking on a small challenge on a regular basis will help you boost your confidence because you'll have more accomplishments, more success, and you're taking those risks. A third item from the middle column is avoid those people that are negative and kind of feed that negative thinking and talk with someone positive. So as we said earlier, sometimes a specific person that you work with might bring up the imposter syndrome for you. And you need to consider that. Is it someone that you can limit your interaction with a little bit more? Do you need to, if you can't do that, you need to prepare every time before you meet with them? Get some help with dealing with what they say to you or better communication and being more assertive, for example. So notice the themes here and keep in mind that, yeah, people that tend to be negative, better to move towards working with and talking with positive people as much as you can. And on the third column here on the far right, remember that the things that you say, as well as your nonverbals, will either exude or not exude confidence and therefore can feed into imposter syndrome. If you're sitting like this, you usually don't feel as confident. If you're speaking confidently with the right tone, the right volume, you're not saying, but, well, if those things that can kind of, language that diffuses our power a little bit, you want to pay attention to those things. And two final things, and these are things we had Beth do as well, great success there, is some people will have like a props email folder of where they keep testimonials or great accomplishments, that type of thing, that they can read through when they're feeling this imposter syndrome, testimonials they got from clients, their boss, etc. And in some cases, working out or going to do something, an activity that you love outside of work that you're really good at, that can help you with imposter syndrome as well. Let's take a look at this next slide. Another tool to beating imposter syndrome is to get really clear about your value and your brand to your organization and to your professional, like your industry, etc. And we want you to think about these elements from this career model that we use with our clients. Think about your strengths and make a list of the top 5. Take a strengths finder assessment to help you with this. If you really feel like, gosh, not clear about what my strengths are. Strengths finder is just one of many. It's great. We love it with the top 5 strengths because it not only tells you what your strengths are, it gives you language that you could use in interviews and meetings to speak about those strengths. We want you to think too about your personality type and what you bring to the table based on that. Are you, for example, more introverted? And not just because of that, because I think extroverts can be this way too, but because of that, in some ways, you're a great listener and you're really great at pulling and information out of a client or customer, let's say, and helping solve their problem because you're great at listening. Think about your education from Georgia State and elsewhere. How does that give you credibility and is part of your brand? The degree that you received, the classes that you obtained. And then finally, last but not least, is your experience on the right-hand side here. What experience have you had that helps you be more of an expert in your industry, in your field? All of those things should be part of your brand and your value. And if you can write out like a really good branding statement for yourself, that can help boost your confidence too and help push this aside. Another tool that we use with clients is from Development Dimensions International. It's a highly regarded management consulting firm. This is their leadership wheel of top 10 leadership skills. You can rank yourself on this wheel on a scale of 1 to 10. And remember, when you're doing this and deciding, okay, where do I fall on a scale in each of these areas? Remember that we're not expecting you to be perfect in all of them. The goal here is that you're really good, and that's part of your brand, at 2 or 3 of them, for example. And as a leader, sure, we can continue to grow and expand, but the goal here is to do a self-assessment and understand what your top strengths are. And we love it even more when our clients will interview other people about this one, just like before. This can be a great tool to use with that, because sometimes we might skip over something or miss it, or we don't realize that we're actually really good at this one thing, and they might be able to help give you some examples. As part of this, we want you to really get clear on what your strengths are. We talked about the Strengths Finder assessment a moment ago, but one of the things, if you can be in a career path and in a job, or steer your career in the direction of, or even make small adjustments to your current position where you're leveraging your strengths in the right way on a regular basis, this is going to help with this a lot. This is the sign model from the Gallup organization, which owns the Strengths Finder assessment. And if you look here, these are signs for a strength for you, okay? And for other people as well, if you're a leader. When you feel really effective and you get great results, that is a sign of a strength. When you notice that you actively look forward to certain types of tasks, that's a sign that you're leveraging a strength. And ideally, you can work on those more in your current position, or do those first thing in the morning so that you kind of get the ball rolling and you're in the flow. And then maybe the things that you don't like as much, end of the day, whatever works best for you. When you feel like you're in the flow, inquisitive, and focused, that's the G, when you're kind of in growth mode. And then finally, when you feel like really fulfilled and authentic and like things are rocking and rolling, that is a sign that you've been leveraging your strengths. And we need to pay attention to those things and not just skip by them. I realize that we're all really busy and we need to get to the task at hand, complete our jobs, et cetera, et cetera. But if you can just do a little bit better and spend a little bit more time assessing kind of how things are going, where you're at, all of that, and observing what's going on too, every single day at the beginning, and then maybe you move to once a week, what went well, what didn't go well, why, what do I need to change? That can help enormously. We love it. And if in addition to a props email folder, our clients will have an accomplishments document, and we suggest always have them do that. It's on your desktop, and you can include testimonials, kudos, skills, and experience, stuff that you may not be adding to your resume, right? Because we're not going to update our resume every single day. But if you read those daily and even just do a quick review of your day, what did I accomplish today? What types of strengths did I use? What were my tangible results? That can help you overcome imposter syndrome as well. Getting support is another piece that can help with this a lot, whether it's leveraging a mentor, a coach like us, someone else. A mentor can be inside or outside of your organization, but find someone in your life, work with a coach, whatever it is, that you can get some accountability as it relates to imposter syndrome for the next 3 months. It doesn't have to be forever. Remember, it takes about 3 months to develop a new habit. So to change your thinking, change your actions, change your words, you need to give yourself a little bit of time. And getting help from someone like weekly check-ins, how does it go? Or how did it go? How have you been feeling, etc., can help enormously. Ask people for advice and their feedback, and be open to the feedback that they give you too. And then finally, before we go today, and just as a quick reminder, you will receive the recording from today. You can get the slides. I'll put that in the chat box in just a second. Creating a plan to address this can be enormously helpful. So don't just say, okay, helpful webinar, yada, yada, and then the phone rings and, you go to the next thing. I totally get it. Putting the email address in there. I get it. Create a simple, easy plan. This doesn't have to be huge. But if you can write something down, either in your journal, in an Excel spreadsheet, in your calendar, for example, to read your affirmations daily, whatever it is, do something weekly to check in on imposter syndrome, the better off you're going to be. Establish some realistic goals for 30, 60, 90 days. And think about, in some cases, would it help you to overcome imposter syndrome? Are there actually things that you could improve? And is there a class you want to take to help with that, for example? Now, we mentioned client Beth a few minutes ago, and I'll tell you the end of her story. So she had spent most of her life discounting her success. And as she started to work on this, she started to apply for jobs that were great promotions for her, the next level up, et cetera. And she hadn't really done that before. And as a result, she actually landed a job. She was based here in Atlanta with her family, and she secured a position that was a huge promotion and raise for her, and such a big deal that she moved her family up there for that. So it wasn't that she didn't know what she was doing, et cetera. All of that negative thinking was not, accurate at all. And once she got out of her way, she was able to move forward enormously in her career. So write down for me, if you would, right now, before we go today, 2 action steps, or even just one, if that's better for you, that you will take in the next week. Will it be, okay, I need to journal about this negative thinking and the situations that occur? It could be, I'm going to create that accomplishments document and try that out. Could be something completely different. There's perfectionists out there. You may need to learn about or create a reminder for yourself to set a timer for certain tasks, get help with certain things, work on something one day and then say it's going to be an hour, and then I'm going to work on it the next day when I have a fresh pair of eyes versus just slogging through it and maybe spending too much time. We hope this was helpful for you as a starting point today. Please feel free to reach out to us for the slides. It's listed on the slide here. And if you'd like to do that free consult with us to learn a little bit more about how we can help you and if it's the right fit, happy to do that anytime. Reminder to keep an eye out on your email for the recording. You should get that by the end of the day today. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. I truly hope this was helpful for you. Have a great day.